An older couple was competing in their annual club championship. The match came down to a final playoff hole, and the wife had a simple 6-inch putt to win. Nervous, she took her stance, but her hands were trembling. She putted and missed. On the drive home, her husband was fuming. "I can't believe you missed that putt. It was no longer than my willy," he grumbled. His wife glanced over, smiled sweetly, and replied, "Yes, dear, but it was much harder." A man placed some flowers on the grave of his dearly departed mother and started back toward his car when his attention was diverted to another man kneeling at a grave. The man seemed to be praying with profound intensity and kept repeating, "Why did you have to die? Why did you have to die?" The first man approached him and said, "Sir, I don't wish to interfere with your private grief, but this demonstration of pain is more than I've ever seen before. For whom do you mourn so deeply? A child? A parent?" The mourner took a moment to collect himself, then replied, "My wife's first husband." An old man went to the college that he went to when he was a youth. He knocked on room number 3 of the hostel and said, "May I come in? I lived in this very room 30 years ago when I studied in this college." A young man opened the door and let him in. The old man examined the room, fondly remembering everything. He said, "The same old room, the same old wooden table, the ventilator, and the same old window that opens to the garden, and the same old bed." When examining it, he found a young girl under the bed. The young man got alarmed and said, "Don't mistake me. She is my sister. She dropped her earring and is searching for it." The old man said, "And the same old story." A doctor examining a woman who had been rushed to the emergency room took the husband aside and said, "I don't like the looks of your wife at all." "Me neither, Doc," said the husband. "But she's a great cook and really good with the kids." Steve complained to his friend Al that lovemaking with his wife was becoming routine and boring. "Get creative, buddy. Break up the monotony. Why don't you try playing doctor for an hour?" "Sounds great," Steve replied. "But how do you make it last for an hour?" "Just keep her in the waiting room for 45 minutes. One night, Murphy was walking home when all of a sudden a thief jumped on him. Murphy and the thief began to wrestle. They rolled about on the ground and Murphy put up a tremendous fight. However, the thief managed to get the better of him and pinned him to the ground. The thief then went through Murphy's pockets and searched him. All the thief could find on Murphy was 25 cents. The thief was so surprised at this that he asked Murphy why he had bothered to fight so hard for 25 cents. "Was that all you wanted?" Murphy replied, "I thought you were after the $500 I've got in my shoe." An elderly couple decides to try for the first time. That night, the sparks fly and they have an incredible time together. The next morning, as they sit at the table, the wife asks, "Would you like some bacon and eggs, toast, maybe some coffee?" He shakes his head. "Nah, I'm not hungry. Must be the It's completely killed my appetite." At lunch, she asks again, "How about some soup, a sandwich, or a muffin?" He declines. "Nope, still not hungry. That little pill really does a number on my appetite." By dinner, she tries one more time. "How about a steak? Maybe some pie or a rotisserie chicken?" Once again, he says, "No thanks. Must be the His wife sighs. "Well, in that case, can you let me up? I'm starving." A man enters a barbershop for a shave. While the barber is foaming him up, he mentions the problems he has getting a close shave around the cheeks. "I have just the thing," says the barber, taking a small wooden ball from a nearby drawer. "Just place this between your cheek and gum." The client places the ball in his mouth, and the barber proceeds with the closest shave the man has ever experienced. After a few strokes, the client asks in garbled speech, "And what if I swallow it?" "No problem," says the barber. "Just bring it back tomorrow as everyone else does." After driving for about 6 hours, a trucker decides to pull over and sleep for a little while. As soon as he falls asleep, he is awoken by some knocks on the door of the cab. "Can you tell me the time, please?" asks a jogger. "Yeah, it's 4:30, answers the trucker. He falls asleep again, but he is awoken again by another jogger who wants to know the time. "It's 4:40, yells the trucker. Deciding to really try to sleep a little, he writes on a piece of paper. I don't know the time. He sticks the paper in his windshield, but he awoke again. It's 5:25, says another jogger. George was planning on going out with the boys when his wife told him that he was not to leave the house. George's wife. The last time you went out with your friends, you got so drunk that you puked on your shirt. George. But honey, I promised that I won't drink a drop of alcohol all night. So after begging his old lady for an hour, George got the okay to go out with the guys as long as he stayed off of the booze. George met up with the guys at a local bar and proceeded to get shit-faced. After about 3 hours of guzzling liquor, George blew chow all over his shirt. George. The old lady's gonna throw my ass out of the house for getting drunk and puking on my new shirt. Bill, George's best pal, gave drunk George an idea of how to keep from getting in trouble with the wife. Bill. All you got to do is have a $20 bill in your hand when you walk through the door. Then, when she accuses you of barfing all over yourself, just tell her that some other drunk puked on you and that he gave you $20 to get the shirt cleaned. So when George walked into the house with money in hand, his wife was waiting for him in the living room. George's wife. I knew that your drunk would spew bile and booze all over that new shirt. George. Honey, let me explain. This drunken fool at the bar puked on me and gave me $20 to have it cleaned. His wife snatched the money out of his hand and observed that he was holding two $20 bills. George's wife. Is that so? Then where did the other $20 bill come from? George. Oh, that's from the guy who shit my pants. A woman goes to buy a parrot and notices the prices. $300, $200, and just $15. Curious, she asks why the last one is so cheap. The shopkeeper chuckles. That one used to live in a room of the Lady of Night. Amused, she buys it. When she brings the parrot home, it immediately says, well, I'll be a brand new place. She laughs it off. Later, when her daughters come home, the parrot chirps, well, look at that, new faces in the house. The girls burst into laughter, but when the dad walks in, the parrot freezes, then blurts out, well, I'll be Pete. Long time no see. An aged farmer and his wife were leaning against the edge of their pig pen when the old woman wistfully recalled that the next week would mark their golden wedding anniversary. Let's have a big party, Homer, she suggested. You'll need to kill a pig. The farmer scratched his grizzled head. Gee, Ethel, he finally answered. I don't see why the pig should take the blame for something that happened 50 years ago. An elderly couple suffering from deteriorating memory signed up for a power memory class to improve their memories. The power memory method taught them to remember things by associating these with familiar objects. After completing the 5-day course, the old man was discussing the merits of the course with a neighbor in his backyard. The old man claimed, signing up for that power memory class was one of the best things I've ever done. The neighbor asked, so who was your instructor? Well, let me see, said the old man. What do you, call that flower that smells nice, but, has those thorns? A rose? Volunteered the neighbor. Yeah, right, nodded the old man, who then turned toward his house and yelled, Hey, Rose, what was the name of the instructor in our power memory class? Store manager. I saw you arguing with that customer who just left. I told you before that the customer is always right. Do you understand me? Sales clerk. Yes, sir. The customer is always right. Store manager. That's better. Now, what were you arguing with the customer about? Sales clerk. Well, sir, he said you are an idiot. Did you hear about the blonde coyote? She got stuck in a trap, chewed off 3 of her legs, and was still stuck. Priest 1. We've got to do something. Many of the young people in our church are converting to the Quaker faith. Priest 2. I've noticed that too. In fact, some of my best friends now are quacks. A married couple arrived at the hospital, ready to welcome their baby into the world. The doctor greeted them with exciting news. He had invented a machine that could transfer a portion of the mother's labor pain to the father. Curious and eager to help, the couple agreed to give it a shot. The doctor started with a modest 10% transfer, warning the husband that even this small amount might be more pain than he had ever experienced. But to everyone's surprise, the husband felt completely fine. Let's bump it up, he said confidently. The doctor increased the transfer to 20%. Still, the husband didn't flinch. Amazed, the doctor checked his vitals, perfectly normal. Encouraged, they cranked it up to 50%, still nothing. By now, the wife was feeling great, so the husband, feeling invincible, said, "Doc, just give me all of it." The doctor transferred 100% of the labor pain to the father. The wife had the smoothest delivery imaginable, 0 pain. The baby was born healthy, and the ecstatic couple couldn't believe their luck. They left the hospital, happier than ever. But when they got home, they found the mailman dead on the porch. A woman was waiting in the checkout line at a shopping center. Her arms were heavily laden with a mop and broom and other cleaning supplies. By her actions and deep sighs, it was obvious she was in a hurry and not happy about the slowness of the line. When the cashier called for a price check on a box of soap, the woman remarked indignantly, "Well, I'll be lucky to get out of here and be home before the new year." "Don't worry, ma'am," replied the cashier. "With that monsoon blowing viciously out there and with this brand new broom you have here, you'll be home in no time." A blonde walked in a diner and orders a cup of coffee. When she gets her drink, she notices that it has a contest game piece on the side of the cup. She peels off the sticker and instantly starts screaming, "I won a motorhome!" She continues shouting, "I won a motorhome!" until the waitress decides to get her boss. "What's the problem here?" the manager asks. "I won a motorhome!" she shouts again. "That's impossible," he replies. "We didn't give out motorhomes." She says, "Well, it says so on this sticker." The boss takes the sticker and reads it. It says, "Win a bagel." A judge was interviewing a woman regarding her pending divorce and asked, "What are the grounds for your divorce?" She replied, "About 4 acres and a nice little home in the middle of the property with a stream running by." "No," he said. "I mean, what is the foundation of this case?" "It is made of concrete, brick and mortar," she responded. "I mean," he continued, "what are your relations like?" "I have an aunt and uncle living here in town, and so do my husband's parents." He said, "Do you have a real grudge?" "No," she replied. "We have a 2-car carport and have never really needed one." "Please," he tried again. "Is there any infidelity in your marriage?" "Yes, both my son and daughter have stereo sets. We don't necessarily like the music, but the answer to your questions is yes." "Ma'am, does your husband ever beat you up?" "Yes," she responded. "About twice a week he gets up earlier than I do." Finally, in frustration, the judge asked, "Lady, why do you want a divorce?" "Oh, I don't want a divorce," she replied. "I've never wanted a divorce. My husband does. He said he can't communicate with me." A woman passed away and found herself standing outside the pearly gates, greeted warmly by St. Peter. Overwhelmed by the beauty surrounding her, she asked, "Is this really heaven? Did I make it here?" St. Peter smiled and replied, "Yes, you're at the gates of heaven, but there's one more thing you must do before entering." The woman, eager to proceed, asked, "What do I need to do?" "Spell a word," St. Peter said. "Which word?" she asked, slightly puzzled. "Any word of your choice," he replied. The woman thought for a moment and said, "Then I'll spell love, L-O-V-E." St. Peter congratulated her and welcomed her to heaven. Then he asked if she could do him a small favor by watching the gates while he took a quick break. "Of course," she said, feeling honored. "But what should I do if someone arrives?" "Just ask them to spell a word like I did with you," St. Peter instructed, and then he left. As she sat at the gates, marveling at the heavenly sights, she suddenly saw someone approaching. To her shock, it was her husband. "What are you doing here?" she asked, startled. Her husband replied, "After your funeral, I was so heartbroken and distracted that I got into an accident, and now I'm here. Did I make it to heaven?" "Not yet," she said firmly. "You have to spell a word first." "What word?" he asked, bracing himself. She paused for a moment, then said with a sly smile, "Czechoslovakia, and you only get one try." A man walked into a bar and ordered a 12-year-old scotch. As the bartender was busy, he decided to serve the guy whatever he had under his hand. The fellow took a sip, spat it out, and told the bartender, "I asked for a 12-year-old scotch and not a 3-year-old one." When the bartender heard that, he checked the bottle and was amazed that the fellow was right. He had served him a 3-year-old scotch. The bartender wanted to see how good the fellow was, so he served him another scotch, this one a 6-year-old. The guy had a sip and spat it out, complaining, "I asked for a 12-year-old scotch and not a 6-year-old one." The bartender was surprised by how good this fellow was, so the barman decided to play one more little game. He served the customer a 9-year-old scotch instead of a 12-year-old one as requested. The fellow had a sip and spat it out, stating, "I think I asked for a 12-year-old scotch and not a 9-year-old one." The bartender was very impressed and finally served him the demanded 12-year-old scotch. The customer took a sip and added, "This is what I asked in the first place." At the end of the counter sat a man who had witnessed this scene. He sent a tumbler to the scotch expert and asked him to have a sip. The fellow did so and spat it out and said, "Good Lord, that's piss." The other man added, "Now, tell me how old I am." A man and woman were celebrating 50 years together. Their 3 kids, all very successful, agreed to a Sunday dinner in their honor. "Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad," gushed son number 1. "Sorry I'm running late. I had an emergency. You know how it is. Didn't have time to get you both a present." "Not to worry," said the dad. "The important thing is that we're all here together today." Son number 2 arrived and announced, "You and Mom still look great, Dad. Just flew in from LA and didn't have time to get you a present." "Sorry. It's nothing," said the father. "Glad you were able to be here." Just then, the daughter arrived. "Hello, both of you. Happy anniversary. I'm sorry, but my boss is sending me out of town and I was really busy packing, so I didn't have time to get you guys anything." Again, the father said, "I really don't care. At least the 5 of us are together today." After they had all finished dessert, the father put down his knife and fork, looked up and said, "Listen up, all 3 of you. There's something your mother and I have wanted to tell you for a long time. You see, we were very poor. Despite this, we were able to raise each of you and send you to college. All through the years, your mother and I knew that we loved each other very much, but we just never found the time to get married." The 3 kids gasped and said, "You mean we're bastards?" "Yep," said the dad. "And cheap ones, too." Bill and Marla thought they had come up with a clever plan for a little alone time one Sunday afternoon, even though their 12-year-old son was home. They sent him out to the balcony and told him to report on what was going on in the neighborhood, so the kid starts narrating like a news anchor. "A car's getting towed from the parking lot. An ambulance just went by. The Andersons have company. Matt's got a new bike. And then, the Coopers are having alone time too." Mom and Dad sit straight up. "Wait, how do you know that?" The kid calmly replies, "Their son is standing on the balcony too." A cowboy rode into town and stopped at a saloon for a drink. Unfortunately, the locals always had a habit of picking on strangers, which he was. When he finished his drink, he found his horse had been stolen. He goes back into the bar, handily flips his gun into the air, catches it above his head without even looking, and fires a shot into the ceiling. "Which one of you sidewinders stole my horse?" he yelled with surprising forcefulness. No one answered. "All right, I'm gonna have another beer, and if my hoss ain't back outside by the time I finish, I'm gonna do what I done in Texas, and I don't like to have to do what I done in Texas." Some of the locals shifted restlessly. He had another beer, walked outside, and his horse is back. He saddles up and starts to ride out of town. The bartender wanders out of the bar and asks, "Say, partner, before you go, what happened in Texas?" The cowboy turned back and said, "I had to walk home." A man was sued by a woman for defamation of character. She charged that he had called her a pig. The man was found guilty and fined. After the trial, he asked the judge, "This means that I cannot call Mrs. Johnson a pig?" The judge said that was true. "Does this mean I cannot call a pig Mrs. Johnson?" the man asked. The judge replied that he could indeed call a pig Mrs. Johnson with no fear of legal action. The man looked directly at Mrs. Johnson and said, "Good afternoon, Mrs. Johnson." 3 dogs were sitting in the waiting room at the vet's when they struck up a conversation. The black Labrador turned to the yellow Labrador and said, "So why are you here?" The yellow lab replied, "I'm a pisser. I piss on everything. The sofa, the curtains, the cat, and the kids. But the final straw was last night when I pissed in the middle of my owner's bed. The black lab said, "So what's the vet going to do?" "Gonna cut my nuts off," came the reply from the yellow lab. "They reckon it'll calm me down." The yellow lab then turned to the black lab and asked, "So, why are you here?" The black lab said, "I'm a digger. I dig under fences, dig up flowers and trees. I dig just for the of it. When I'm inside, I dig up the carpets, but I went over the line last night when I dug a great big hole in my owner's couch." "So what are they going to do to you?" the yellow lab inquired. "Looks like I'm losing my nuts too," the dejected black lab said. The black lab then turned to the Great Dane and asked, "Why are you here?" "I'm a humper," said the Great Dane. "I'll hump anything. I'll hump the cat, a pillow, the table, fence posts. I want to hump everything I see. Yesterday, my owner had just got out of the shower and was bending down to dry her toes, and I just couldn't help myself. I hopped on her back and started hammering away." The black and the yellow labs exchanged a sad glance and said, "So, it's nuts off for you too, huh?" The Great Dane said, "No, apparently I'm here to get my nails clipped." There was a guy in a bar one night that got really drunk. I mean really drunk. When the bar closed, he got up to go home. As he stumbled out the door, he saw a nun walking on the sidewalk. So he stumbled over to her and punched her in the face. The nun was really surprised, but before she could do or say anything, he punched her again. This time she fell down and he stumbled over to her and kicked her in the side. Then he picked her up and threw her into a wall. By this time, the nun was pretty weak and couldn't move very much. So then he stumbled over to her, put his face right next to hers and said, "Not so damn strong tonight, are you, Batman?" One Sunday morning, George burst into the living room and said, "Dad, Mom, I have some great news for you. I am getting married to the most beautiful girl in town. She lives a block away and her name is Susan." After dinner, George's dad took him aside. "Son, I have to talk with you. Look at your mother, George. She and I have been married 30 years. She's a wonderful wife and mother, but she has never offered much excitement in the bedroom, so I used to fool around with women a lot. Susan is actually your half-sister, and I'm afraid you can't marry her." George was broken-hearted. After 8 months, he eventually started dating girls again. A year later, he came home and very proudly announced, "Diane said yes. We're getting married in June." Again, his father insisted on another private conversation and broke the sad news. "Diane is your half-sister too, George. I'm awfully sorry about this." George was livid. He finally decided to go to his mother with the news his father had shared. "Dad has done so much harm. I guess I'm never going to get married," he complained. "Every time I fall in love, Dad tells me the girl is my half-sister." He, his mother chuckled, shaking her head. "Don't pay any attention to what he says. He's not really your father." A little boy was sitting outside a store eating one Snickers candy bar after another when an older man walked up and said, "You shouldn't be eating so much candy. It'll rot your teeth. It's just bad for you to eat so much candy." The little boy looked up and said, "My grandfather lived to be 95 years old." The older man asked, "Oh, by eating Snickers candy bars?" The little boy said, "No, by minding his own business." Stephen is shopping for a new motorcycle. He finally finds one for a great price. The motorcycle is missing a seal though, so whenever it rains, Steve has to smear Vaseline over the spot where the seal should be. Stephen's girlfriend is having him over for dinner to meet her parents one evening. He drives his new motorcycle to his girlfriend's house. She is waiting outside for him when he arrives. "No matter what happens at dinner tonight, don't say a word. Our family had a fight a while ago about doing the dinner dishes. We haven't done any since, and the first person to speak at dinner has to do them." Stephen sits down for dinner and soon notices that his girlfriend wasn't exaggerating. It is just how she described it. Dishes are piled up to the ceiling in the kitchen, and nobody is saying a word. Stephen decides to have a little fun. He grabs his girlfriend, throws her onto the table, and started hugging and kissing her in front of her parents. His girlfriend is a little flustered, her father is obviously livid, and her mother is horrified. Yet, when Stephen and his girlfriend resumed their places at the dinner table, nobody said a word. A few minutes later, Stephen grabs his girlfriend's mom, throws her onto the table, and does a repeat performance. Now his girlfriend is furious, her father is boiling, and her mother is a little more pleased. But still, there is complete silence at the table. Suddenly there is a loud clap of thunder, and it starts to rain. Stephen remembered his motorcycle outside, and so he jumps up and grabs his jar of Vaseline. With a look of terror in his eyes, the girlfriend's father backs away from the table and exclaims, "Okay, enough is enough, I'll do the damn dishes." A Mafia Don calls his home. The butler picks up the phone and says, "Hello, Mafia Don, give the phone to my wife." Butler, "Just a moment." The butler comes back and says, "She is in the bathroom." Mafia Don, "I said I want to speak to her now." Butler, "I am sorry, but she cannot come to the phone right now." Mafia Don, "If you do not get her on the phone in a minute, I am going to blow your head into smithereens." Butler, now scared, "You do not understand. There is a man with her in the bathroom." Mafia Don, "What did you say?" Butler, "Yes, it's true." Mafia Don, "Listen carefully. I want you to take the gun from my closet and then shoot them both." Butler, scared out of his wits, "I can't do that. I can never kill anyone." Mafia Don, "Do it right now." Butler, "No, I can't." Mafia Don, "If you don't do it right now, I will kill you and your family. Now get on it with, I want to hear the shots, and don't forget to get rid of the gun." Butler, all right." The Mafia Don then hears two loud shots over the phone. Butler, badly shaken, "I did it." Mafia Don, "Good work. What did you do with the gun?" Butler, "I threw the gun in the pool." Mafia Don, "What pool are you talking about? We don't have a pool. Is this 01920010000? A young boy from Penang goes off to college. Halfway through the semester, he has foolishly squandered all his money. He calls home. "Dad," he says, "you won't believe what modern education is developing. They actually have a program here in Cole Corona that will teach our dog, Coco, how to talk." "That's amazing," his dad says. "How do we get Coco into that program?" "Just send him down here with RM1000, the young boy says. "I'll get him into the course." So his father sends the dog and RM1000. About 2/3 of the way through the semester, the money again runs out. The boy calls home. "So, how's Coco doing, son?" his father asks. "Awesome, Dad. He's talking up a storm," he says. "But you just won't believe this. They've had such good results, they have started to teach the animals how to read." "Read?" says his father. "No kidding. How do we get Coco into that program?" "Just send RM2500, I'll get him in the class." The money promptly arrives, but our hero has a problem. At the end of the year, his father will find out the dog can neither talk nor read, so he shoots the dog. When he arrives home at the end of the year, his father is all excited. "Where's Coco? I just can't wait to see him read something and talk." "Dad," the boy says, "I have some grim news. Yesterday morning, just before we left to drive home, Coco was in the living room, kicked back in the recliner, reading the Wall Street Journal like he usually does. Then he turned to me and asked, 'So, is your daddy still messing around with that young lady who lives in town?' The father exclaimed, 'I hope you shot that son of a bitch before he talks to your mother. I sure did, Dad. That's my boy.' The kid went on to be a successful lawyer and then went into politics.